Just what did he have to tell you? Exactly what was so important that he needed to talk to you after the sports festival? You clutched your head hard in confusion. Hikari seemed to take notice and asked, "What's up with you?" "What?" You looked up from your hands. Hikari frowns, scratching his head and looking back. "I just mean, you've been acting weird." "Oh, sorry." You apologize. Not sure what else to say in the matter. Hikari stared at you for a second, as if the answer would suddenly appear if he concentrated hard enough. Such notion was similar to his quirk, Stalker. It let him know the name, age, and quirk rundown of anyone's body he looked in the eye. He was extremely useful for making great tactics on the battlefield. That mind combined with his agile capabilities would make an amazing hero. You smiled internally, thinking about your friend's power. How there was no way he could not be on this field at the same time next year. You hoped you would be down there with him. You would surely try, and even if it didn't seem likely, you would ask Katsuki to help you train. You watched as the festival came to a close, your brother doing his absolute best to refuse the gold medal. He really set up a podium for you, didn't he? Your brother is really amazing, Hikari says with his eyes wide. You follow them, landing back on your brother. You grin, pulling out your phone. Just something for the road. You mumble, clicking the camera app. Zooming in, your phone camera accidentally lands on Todoroki. Blushing, you move it away and take a few photos of Katsuki. Then, on some type of impulse, you move your phone camera back to Todoroki and snap a single photo. You don't know why you did it, but you did and hid your phone as soon as it did. What were you thinking? First of all, why did you take a photo of him in the first place? Your mind was spinning out of control at the thought of someone seeing you. You needed to delete it and get rid of any evidence that the picture ever existed. That was the right thing to do, the most logical, so why couldn't you? Your finger hovered above the delete button, but you just couldn't. A pit in the low of your stomach prevented you from moving, a gutless thing that made you sick. You felt faint, felt like you might just pass out on the seat like a fish out of water. Wyan? It was Hikari. You turn your head looking up, questioning an anxious expression spreading across your face. You hoped he didn't see you. He tilted his head to the side and stared at you, intent on figuring out what exactly was going on with you and why. He leaned forward, and you had the right idea to lean back, but his hand followed you. His bright gray eyes pierced yours with concern. They moved up and toward your forehead, where his hand was currently attached. He nodded like he'd concluded his answer. You're sick. What? You have a fever, a high one. What? You repeated. He shrugged his shoulders. Your heart rate was beating at 5 per second and your face was red. Oh. Then it occurred to you that Hikari had just told you your exact heart rate. How? You looked back at him, but seeing the little quirk of the right side of his lip and his finger coming up to it kept you quiet. Our secret. You nodded, a wavering smile coating your lips. Hey, Bakugo's ready to go. Rin appeared out of nowhere. Your parents sent me to come get you. It was odd. You looked back down at the podium, and sure enough, your brother was gone, along with the rest of the winners. Your mind immediately thought about Todoroki. Where was he? And was he looking for me? These were the questions you couldn't get out of your mind, and they made you feel way sicker than you felt a few seconds ago. I'll meet you guys at the car. I have to use the bathroom first. I'll go with you, Hikari said, eyeing you, then eyeing Rin. You really don't have to, you say, hoping to go off alone. You really didn't want anyone knowing you're talking to Todoroki. You don't know why, but you kind of wanted to keep your secret little meetings to yourself. It's not for you. I have to go to the bathroom too. Oh, was all you could say with a nervous little gulp. Okay then. Come on, you found them earlier, right? It shouldn't be that long then. He smiles as Rin nods. Okay, I'll meet you back in the car, and please hurry. He winces. I don't think I'm safe being alone with your brother. Oh, come on, my parents are there. You laugh a little, glad to find it isn't forced. Well, to be honest, your mom kind of scares me too, and your dad is a pushover. Yes. Fine, we'll try to hurry. When you and Hikari part ways with him, Hikari asks, I think he'll survive the car ride back. You sigh, a calm smile resting on your face. Nope. His laugh breaks into the hallway, and you have to still yourself for a moment, treasuring things like this, friendship, and memories. The year feels so different when you let yourself take it all in. It feels like home, and a huge wave of nostalgia rushes over you. When you were kids, Hikari was there always. Then you two met Aoi, and in middle school, just last year, you three met Rin. Your tight-knit group was small, but it was yours and yours alone, just like your meetings with Todoroki were yours and his only. That might just be the reason you didn't want anyone to know about them. You smiled to yourself, playing with the phone that was in your hands. Here. You stayed, stopping in front of the bathrooms, women on one side and men on the other. Nice. That wasn't long at all. He walks forward, but stops and turns around when he notices you aren't following him. Why in? He tilts his head. Oh, right. I'll just be a minute. There's someone I have to find. What? I thought you had used the bathroom. Yeah, I have to do something real quick. Go to the bathroom. I'll be back when you're out. You wave, turning your back on him and sprinting away. Now just where would Todoroki be? Didn't he say to meet him at the front? Yeah, but you didn't want your family, much less Katsuki, to see you fraternizing with his enemy. Sweat dripped down your brow as you looked in every unlocked room. Todoroki? You yelled in a whisper, hoping the boy would randomly appear and save you from this embarrassment. You're acting disgracefully, Shoto. You threw yourself against the wall so quickly, it was as if Zeus himself struck down and gave you superpowers. You didn't recognize the voice, but the way he said Todoroki's name, his first name at that, made it seem as if the person was close to Todoroki, only it sounded like the person was far from being anywhere near intimate with the boy. You cup your mouth and hope for the best, hoping that neither of the men would notice your presence. You wanted to look back over, but as soon as your head tilted the smallest bit, footsteps sounded again in the hallway, as if someone began walking. You held your breath, your eyes were pinched tightly together. You were scared, not knowing who was about to round that corner. If you had simply used the power in your left side, you would have had an overwhelming victory in both of the first rounds. His voice was low and unhinged. It sounded queer, like he was trying to be supportive and give advice, but also as if he were berating Todoroki. Maybe it was his coach, but then he was walking toward you. This seemed like a one-on-one conversation, so it certainly couldn't be anyone but one of the two guys contributing to this conversation. But who was it? The man speaking sounded older than Todoroki, a great deal at that. It was probably his coach. Either way, you would be... What would you be? Dead? This calmed you down a bit, but the thought of Todoroki catching you eavesdropping on his conversation chilled you to the bones. He'd be mad at you, he'd hate you, and find you disgusting, because who listens to another person's conversation without having an ulterior motive? Your lips pierced as the footsteps came closer. It reminded you of when you first met Todoroki, giving you a strong sense of déjà vu. Your eyes hit the ground when you saw his shoe in the corner. Your eyes came up and met his, and just like before, it felt like time had stopped. His gaze was hard and angry. Why was he angry? Why was he looking like he hated everything on earth at the moment? You opened your mouth, but nothing came out. It hung open, giving imagery to what was going on in your brain. It was quick, the way his eyes played with different emotions, and the way his hand grabbed your wrist. Electricity shot down to your core. Your heart was beating, and if Hikari were here, you were sure he'd think you were dying. 1,000,000 beats per second, "You need to sit down," is what he'd probably say. At least, that was what you would have been thinking. That is, if all your attention hadn't been on the boy in front of you. Your eyes were saucers as he pulled you along the empty corridors. Again, you wanted to say something, anything, but nothing came out of your mouth. Your eyes went to where his hand met with your wrist. His grip was tight, and yet he had a tender, soft touch to it, like how his eyes switched when he met yours. He'd gulped. Now that you think about it, he'd gulped and it looks like he wanted to scream. I wonder why that is. But you could not figure it out. You thought about asking Todoroki what was going on, but decided that it would be best to stay out of his personal life. If he wasn't mad at you already, then that would surely push him over the edge. When Todoroki came to a stop in a random doorway, he walked into the first room he could find, you assumed, shut the door, and faced you. It took you a few seconds, but eventually, you spoke. Todoroki? I'm sorry you had to hear that. So he wasn't mad at you. That was good. You became frantic. Oh, no, that's not what I meant. You blushed, looking at the floor, thinking it would help you calm down. It did, for the most part. But the thing was, I just meant that you're still holding my wrist. Hikari would have had a heart attack if he saw your heartbeat right now. God, why were you so embarrassed? It's not like you had a thing for him. He was a guy, and someone your brother didn't like. Oh, if Katsuki could see you now, he would have much more than a heart attack. You were way too sure of that. Right, I'm sorry. He let go of your wrist, and the comfort that came along with his tender touch disappeared with it. As soon as his skin was removed from yours, you had a strange longing to reconnect them. Something was seriously wrong with you. Maybe Hikari was right. Maybe you really were sick. It's fine. You clutched your hands together, hoping to conceal the need for his hand to be touching you again. So, you were looking for me? Yeah, you said you wanted something, a favor to, me to repay you? Yeah, I didn't think you'd actually come looking for me, though. He looked to the side, and for some reason, though his face was stone cold, and he let no emotion slip through, you couldn't help but think this was Todoroki being shy. In all reality, you found the emotionless boy adorable. You wanted to squeeze him so bad it hurt. That's what it is, you determined. I just think he's adorable because he has no emotions. Good. Now you could define what you were feeling. That made everything easier, talking to him included. Yeah, about that. He went quiet for a moment, as if deciding how to word what he wanted to say. I want you to be my friend. You blinked. A queer smile stuck to your face. What?